What's up, movie fans? Okay, so before we get into the actual review, can we just acknowledge that this title for this movie is horrible? Wonder Woman 1984? This is only the second movie. What the heck, DC? What is this? No, I'm joking, guys. I know why it's called Wonder Woman 1984, because they're planning on making 1982 prequels, I know. So, Wonder Woman 1984, the newest movie in the DC Extended Universe, just came out on HBO Max and in movie theaters. And as far as I'm seeing right now, people have very mixed feelings on this movie, so that's interesting. Today I'm going to give you my feelings on this movie, everything I liked about it, everything I disliked about it, and just everything I thought about this movie. So I guess let's just get right into it, starting with everything I liked. And first off, I think that this movie did a pretty good job with Wonder Woman's character arc, especially in how it kind of tied it to the first movie, because they took Steve Trevor's death from the first movie and made that basically the central thing driving her character arc, because they show that she's still not entirely over it, and she kind of has to accept it in the movie. And the cool thing about her character arc in this movie is that if she doesn't complete it, she basically loses the battle. I'm not gonna go into why, because there are spoiler things for that, but she has to complete her character arc in order to actually win the battle in the movie, and I thought that that was cool. Bringing back Steve Trevor was something that I wasn't sure about how I thought about it after the first movie. Like, Steve's sacrifice at the end of that movie was such a great emotional beat, and I was like, are they really gonna retcon it? Like, I thought that was a really bad idea, but it was actually handled really well in my opinion. And I think they did a really good job in how it tied into Wonder Woman's character arc, which I, again, can't go into that deep, considering spoilers, but I did really like Steve's return, and I also really liked the villains of this movie. I basically just liked all of the characters in this movie. They did a really good job with the characters, but the two villains, Cheetah and Max Lord, who is played by the Mandalorian, Pedro Pascal, I think that they're both probably the best villains in the DCEU so far, which the DCEU really hasn't had that many standout villains, but I still thought those two villains that were in Wonder Woman 1984 were really good villains and the best in the DCEU. I liked their motivations. There were parts of the movie where I even felt bad for them, so they just did a great job with the villains. I really liked some of the action that was in this movie, though I could have done with a bit more of it. There's not a lot of action in this movie, but I did like it when it happened. And I especially like how they used the lasso of truth in this movie, because for some reason, I don't exactly know why, but Wonder Woman doesn't have her sword and shield in this movie, which is weird to me since she had it in literally every other movie she's been in so far. But I still thought that how they used the lasso of truth in this movie without her sword and shield was really cool. And the last thing that I liked about this movie was how high the stakes got. I wasn't expecting it to go this high, but this movie actually kind of has, like, world-ending stakes. That was surprising, and I really liked it, actually. Like, I think it was handled pretty well. So, yeah, that's all the stuff that I liked about this movie. Now let's get into some of the things that I disliked about this movie, which there actually are quite a few of those. So first off, this movie has a lot of inconsistencies. Like, the entire DCU has had a lot of inconsistent things about it. Like, they haven't been great in terms of consistency. I don't think they've ever had this many inconsistencies in just one movie before. What I'm talking about is there's this one plot device in this movie, and this plot device is extremely important. It drives the entire movie's story forward. And it worked weirdly. Like, there were scenes where it was doing things, and I was like, wait, but was it ever established that it could do that? Like, there were scenes where I just felt like they needed to explain it a bit better. And then there are also scenes in this movie where Wonder Woman uses two powers that we've never seen her use before. And while I was watching it, I was like, okay, those two things would have come in real handy in the other movies. And you might think, oh, well, she might not have known how to use them in the other movies. But that doesn't make sense considering this movie takes place before two of the movies she's been in so far. So I was really just confused by them. Then another thing that I didn't really like about this movie was I thought the ending could have used some work. It was really anticlimactic. I also thought that the first hour of this movie was kind of slow-paced and boring. Like, I do think it was a bit necessary, but I think they could have sped it up a little bit, and it still would have worked fine, so I didn't really like that. And this last thing isn't even that big of a complaint. It's honestly incredibly minor, but just saying, they said that Cheetah would be the main villain of this movie before it came out, and she's really not. Max Lord is. She's more of a side villain, so that was a minor thing that I noticed. It's not really that big of a complaint, but still thought I would throw it in there. And yeah, that's about everything I didn't like. My overall opinion on this movie is, I think that the, general audience's reaction has kind of been my take on it too. I have incredibly mixed feelings on this movie as well. I can't decide whether or not I liked it or I didn't like it. It has some really good things about it, but it also has some really bad things about it. Like, it's a really mixed movie. It's a 7 out of 10, I think, overall. If somebody were to ask me if I wanted to watch Soul or this movie for another time, I would probably say Soul. Yeah, that's about all I really have to say here. If you enjoyed the video, like and subscribe. See ya, movie fans.